All right, hey folks, when was your first big overnight hunting trip? Like the whole weekend or overnight or going off to someplace. How old were you? Were you young? Were you with your dad? When did you start hunting? These are things I'd love to know. Write down in the comments below. Today I've got a story for you about myself hunting on my very first expedition. My first time staying overnight on a hunting trip. So, 1984 in the West Kootenays of British Columbia. That's where this takes place. I was, maybe 15 years old at the time, and I'd been hunting since I was 13. And but we lived in a beautiful area. Like I was not a city kid. I was a country kid, that's for sure. Small community. I mean, if you gathered up everybody from around the whole area, within 20 miles, you might have got 500 people. So, small community. Hunting was at the doorstep is what I'm trying to say. Anytime I wanted to go hunting, I could go. I could go before school, after school, on weekends. I could leave right from my doorstep and had fabulous hunting opportunities. Not a lot of success in those early years, but a lot of opportunities right off my doorstep and right anywhere within where I lived, in a few miles of where I lived. In any case, what we didn't have in the area was moose. And we wanted to get a moose so bad. My dad wanted to get a moose. He dreamt about getting a moose for a long time, and he'd moved to a part of the country where there was white-tailed deer, and there's mule deer, grizzly bear, black bear, elk, mountain goat, and he enjoyed hunting all of them, but he wanted to hunt a moose. So, moose is a really interesting animal. They have migrated into many, many different territories that they normally weren't. I believe this has a lot to do with logging in different areas. Whereas these areas get logged, they get burnt, the new growth comes up, and you got your moose moving down. As moose actually were an animal just more for above the tree line, in places where there's not a lot of trees, and places where there's a lot of brush and a lot of willow and dogwood and that kind of thing. And which is why you see such big moose up in the Yukon and Alaska and that kind of thing, getting around that tree line and that. But in any case, moose have migrated down, and you'll find moose right down into the United States now. All right, interesting sidebar. But here we were wanting to hunt moose and had none in our area, but they had migrated down, getting pretty darn close. And there was a season in just north of Revelstoke, British Columbia. Limited entry season had now started there because they were starting to get a good moose population. Oh, we were really excited. Oh, and that being said, eventually, this was 1985. I think it was about, I wish I could remember, when I actually shot the first legal moose out of the West Kootenays. So as those moose moved down south from Revelstoke area, moved into our area, and we eventually seen a limited entry season as well. Okay, but this was before that. Dad and I are excited. How are we going to get a moose? We're going to go traveling. Not something usual for us, but Dad planned out. All right, he got his limited entry tag for Revelstoke, which was only maybe, I think, about 4 hours drive away to this area of hunting. So not that far, but just far enough that we're going to pack up our vehicle and we're going to stay. Dad and I had so much fun. I mean, I'm 15 years old, right? And folks, I just got to encourage you, if you have kids at that age, get them out hunting, spending time with them. That was just so up my alley right there at that 13, 14, 15, 16, was so up my alley. So much I wanted to learn and so much I admired about my dad and wanted to be a man. And I just figured, a successful hunt would really help get me there. So this was Dad's hunt. He had the tag, but I was more than happy to come along and so glad that he invited me instead of one of his other friends. So, which of course he did. He was such a great dad. He spent a lot of time with me. He knew my excitement. So he wasn't going to invite one of his friends. He brought me along. We packed up the vehicle. Now, all we had back then, I think, was like a late 70s GMC, single cab bench seat, V8, 4-speed truck, 4x4. And so we put a canopy on that thing and we filled it up with all our gear. And we put some foamies in the bottom and filled it up with all our gear. And we said, we're just going to camp right in that box of the truck. under the canopy. It's going to be perfect. So off we went. And we got past. It's quite a long drive there, and you don't pass really anything. It's no other towns or anything along the way except Revelstoke. And we had gotten past that, and we were heading out north of there, trying to get to our area. And we're going through mentally all the different things that we brought. We brought the rifle, we brought the ammo, we brought the frying pan, we brought this, we brought that, we brought this, we brought that. Wait a minute. Do we have any matches? Do we have a lighter? Do we have any means of starting a fire? Well, believe it or not, we didn't. That's got to be number one on the list, right? But we didn't. And so as sheepish as we were, we get up miles past the closest town and we're like, oh, Matt, how could you be so stupid? We got to turn the vehicle around, head back to town to Revelstoke and buy ourselves some matches and then quickly get back out there so we can make camp that evening. And so that's what we did. We headed back. We drove back into Revelstoke. And by some weird chance, I'm pretty sure this was, just some coincidence, but we pulled into a gas station, the first one, and we went in and there's no matches. And so then we go to the front and we're looking for lighters. Well, that'll do. There was no lighters. No matches in this place. I couldn't believe it. That's odd. So we up and drove to another place. I think this was more of a store, like a Home Hardware or something like that, the second one. So we get there, we go in, no matches. We go to the counter, no lighters. No matches, no lighters. We couldn't believe it. Well, that was it. My dad had now written this town off. He says, this is the most ridiculous place in the world. Worst shopping experience any town in the world doesn't even have matches. This is ridiculous. See, my dad was kind of like that. And maybe yours was too, or someone that you know is like that. Write down in the comments below if you have a similar story. But my dad was kind of like that in a way that he would write things off pretty quickly. It was either good or it was terrible, and there wasn't a lot of in between. Where we lived was good. Most other places, terrible. This place now had lost all his confidence for the rest of his life. It would remain the worst shopping town on earth. And he made sure he told everyone that too. The third stop, we found matches. Off we drove. Like I said, I'm only a 15-year-old kid. I am just so excited to be with Dad and to be spending time with him. And we made it up. We made it back to the spot where we wanted to camp. We had kind of known where the area was, and we found a nice place, level and everything that's going to be good for our truck. We got there just before dark, and so there wasn't any time to go hunting yet. So we fired up our cook stove with our newfound matches and enjoyed a nice meal, pulled out all our gear, put our foamies down, and crawled into the back of that truck underneath the canopy to sleep in the bed of the truck. And so I was, like I said, 15 years old. I slept like a baby. You remember what it's like when you're young? You could sleep in the corner. You could roll up in a ball in the corner of this room and have 8 hours sleep. You could sleep on a couch. You could sleep on a tar mat. If you had a blanket and were warm, you'd be happy. Well, as I know now, it's not like that. The older you get, the more you miss your bed, the more you feel every bump, lump, and coldness. And my dad was in that situation, and he said that he stayed up all night long looking at me, a 15-year-old kid, just sleeping to beat the band. He said, you never woke up once. I woke up in the morning. Oh, morning, Dad. How's it going? Slept pretty good. Well, poor Dad hadn't slept a wink. Any case, we're up, crack of dawn. We do a little bit of moose hunting, but there's no sign there. There's nothing. And we're like, hey, man, we picked the wrong area. We need to come down off this gravel road, take the highway out about, like, I don't know, it was only maybe 20 minutes or so east, and then we can get up another road and get into some good country there that's still within our area for the tag. Okay, so that's what we do. We pack everything up. We get in the truck. We start heading down. We just pull out onto the highway. We just get up to speed, and not a word of a lie, no kidding. Here, a moose comes running right across the highway. So we're like, what? And so hunting in Canada, you're not allowed to just stop and shoot off the side of a road, right? There's road right-of-ways that the road off to the side, so and so many feet, you can't shoot in there, and then even if you were off to the side, then you have to be on crown land or on your own land or on private land with permission, right? So you can't just be blasting off highways. So we see this moose go by, and there's quite a bit of land between us and the lake. And so we figure, well, I guess he's going to cross the lake, or if he doesn't cross the lake, he's going to be hiding in a little bit of bush that's down there. That is definitely far enough off the road and is definitely on crown land. That's what we call public land in Canada. Little side note, because of we got our independence from Britain not that long ago. We kept all of these crazy words, and so public land is called crown land. And we kept all of these monarch things, even though we don't have anything to do with the monarchy anymore. We just have it all in our language for stuff because of our history. So anyways, side note, crown land, that's what that means, public land. So we figure, oh, okay, perfect. This opportunity knocks. We can't believe it. There's a moose going to run across the road. We're going to go shoot that moose. Now, it was a small moose, though. Well, when I say small, you know how moose are. Thing was great, big, giant as a horse. Goes running across the road. You can't believe how big it is. But the antlers, teeny little antlers on them like that. But this is first moose ever, and we're meat hunters, so we got no problem with that. So we put the truck off to the side of the road, and we get out, we get our guns, and we put bullets in, and we get all ready to go. And I go down one way, knowing that if I go that way, I'm going to draw his attention. He's probably even going to want to avoid me and head out this way. Dad heads out this way so that he's going to be able to get that shot. I go out first. He's going out second. I'm making more noise. He's making less. Hopefully that moose is going to see me, head out this way. Dad's going to get a shot. That's just the way it worked. You wouldn't believe it. I just got out and I couldn't quite see, from around the other side, but boom, I hear the shot. So I go trucking over there, and there's Dad. He's waiting. Just took one shot. Says, good shot. Just waiting here for him to die and pass nicely. So Dad and I, we go down there. We got this moose, and we're going to do some skinning, right? So we start skinning it out, and could see right where he hit it through the chest in his one fantastic shot. And it just like the placement was perfect. And then we start skinning. We get down to the back end, and we're skinning that out. And holy cow, there's another hole. We're thinking about the angles and everything. There's no way this thing could have had, the one bullet could have made the hole in the back end like this. And so we're thinking about how that could be when all of a sudden this truck comes pulling up, and this dude hops out, and this hunter guy, he comes walking over, and he's got kind of a pouty look on his face. And he says, well, you guys just shot my moose. And we said, what are you talking about? We're here, sitting ran across the road, and we shot it right here, all legal as can be. And he says, well, yeah, but I shot it way up the mountain there, and then it ran away, and I came down here trying to find it. Well, he'd only shot it through the back leg, right? So he was never going to find it. That thing was going to cross. It was going to hide there. If he would have come out at all, it would have swam across the lake was its next option. That thing was gone. He was never going to find it. It wasn't bleeding much or nothing. We didn't even notice. It ran across the road without even limping, for crying out loud. But it's got a hole in the leg. So the guy's like, well, that's my moose. And he's all kind of pouty about it. So I was really wondering, I wonder how my dad's going to handle this situation. So Dad, he took his time and thought about it. Finally, he says to the fella, he says, well, I'm pretty darn sure that moose would have got away on you. So you're lucky that I got it. And I'll tell you what, I'll give you the quarter that your bullet hit. So right there and then we got that. We finished up our skinning of that quarter, and we bucked that quarter off, and we gave it to him. And he didn't have to fill his tag, and he got a quarter of moose, and he was happy. And off he went home, and we went home with our 3/4 of a moose. That worked out perfect. 3/4 of moose, a heck of a lot of meat, that's for sure. And so it lasted us till the next year. And Dad and I had that fantastic experience. Only one night of sleeplessness for him in the back of that truck. The very next day, we were heading home, moose in hand. And I just can't tell you how that stands out in my memory. The time that Dad took with me, the skinning that we did, how we handled that situation, dealt with other hunters. It's just imprinted in my mind. And I just want to encourage all of you men out there to take your sons with you, to take your nephews with you, to take a younger man with you, take him out hunting. You're making memories that he'll never forget. And, maybe starting out, his own hunting hobby that he'll continue on through his life. And maybe he'll one day have a story on the Moose Whisperer. That's right, folks. You can send your stories in to me. I'd love to tell them to the world. Send them to info@themoosewhisperer.com. Hey, we're starting a community here. Thanks for watching. More stories to come.